Hey, Corey.
Philly, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm alive for a middle-aged man with a beard.
See, it's all a matter of perspective. Let's not forget this, Phil. Middle-aged at one time, we would be venerable elders. We wouldn't be middle-aged.
This is true. In a different
People died in
time.
their 30s.
Well, you're not wrong. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we're way above the grade then. I never even thought of that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a way to look at
yeah.
it.
That's what
Back in the day, with when they say like 40's the new 20 and 50's the new 30. I mean,
is it though? Is it?
no, no,
Not if you're that age.
but it's not what it used to be. I remember,
No, it's not, I guess.
fit people like I've seen people in their 50s and 60s who, are barely keeping it together. And I've seen other people who are, living their
If you
best
think
life.
back to our teachers in school,
Yep.
most of those teachers were in their 30s at the
Okay.
time that we were in high school, right? Wow.
Even Mr. Bengay.
He wouldn't have been. He lived another 25 fucking years. So I would.
He looked like
So,
he looked like a bad 50 is what he looked like.
oh, yeah,
A bad 50. He looked like a 50 from the 80s.
he would maybe. Yeah, you're right. But even how they dressed, I mean, their demeanor, like everything is so different now. So, how we have aged. But what are we doing? What are we doing?
We're doing voodoo, buddy.
Voodoo, hoodoo, yoodoo again. Let's voodoo this. All right, you ready? Let's do it.
I'm ready.
Okay. Welcome to the OC. I'm Phil. This is my co-host Corey, and tonight we're talking about voodoo. Isn't that crazy?
I love how you do the question. We're talking about voodoo.
Voodoo. I always like to keep the audience reeling. Those viewers
suspense.
out
Keep
there.
them in suspense.
We're doing
the 20 some odd viewers we have, at least according to what Spotify's anchors tracking.
Yeah, is that? Oh, that's, you know what? It's okay though. We enjoy doing this.
Hey,
it's a way for us to get together and talk about obscure things.
Immortality on the internet, buddy.
Without seeming weird.
This is like your sex tape. It's just going to be out there forever.
Jesus. Whoa, that's a short tape. That's a small reel.
And only for premium subscribers.
Right. You and our Patreon accounts.
Exactly.
You too can watch something that's disappointing. Right.
That's why we loop it, Phil. We loop it. We follow the techniques in the industry.
So it's the same way.
Thanks, a stallion. Look at that.
Look at him go. Like, wait a minute, something's wrong here.
It's a GIF. It's just a GIF looping back and forth.
Right? Yeah. Why is he have cartoon legs? What is that?
Okay, good to know.
Modern technology.
Let's get ChatGPT to generate some stuff.
Right. So I was surprised. I thought, Voodoo was just a legit sort of movie thing. How about you?
Yeah, we had talked earlier, and I completely agree with that. Pop culture has ruined many things for us, and this is one of the things they ruined.
Oh,
I keep thinking back to Steven Seagal's Hard to Kill.
Right.
Okay? Yes. That's my voodoo knowledge consists of that and the blaxploitation that was Brother Voodoo from Marvel Comics.
Right. Okay. So, what about Pirates of the Caribbean? Lots of voodoo going on there.
I didn't count that.
Why
just
not?
Because I don't know. I mean, I should have, I guessed. I mean, it's probably more. There was a surprising lack of Haitians in that. I mean,
yeah.
Calypso, I think the goddess there, wasn't she?
No idea.
I can't remember who the actress was. Anyway, doesn't matter.
No, but at the same time, I mean, any of the, the voodoo dolls, the all that stuff. I mean, apparently that's just not. Yeah, that's all made up.
It's not accurate. This is the thing, right? It's like anything. Once Hollywood gets its claws into something, there's a lot of. It's like the Da Vinci Code. Remember the Da Vinci Code?
I know.
Remember, all of a sudden, everybody's thinking, "Oh my God, the Catholic Church is hiding the bloodline of Christ," or whatever.
Probably are though. I mean,
true, but that's not the point. That's a different episode.
They're suppressing a lot of technology.
They do have like a black archive or something where they keep all the books they've banned, which I think were mostly, just inappropriate, as opposed to the secrets of the universe they don't want man to know.
More inappropriate to the plight of the church, whatever that may have been at the time.
You're not going to go off and cut your own throat when it comes to doctrine. If you're like, hey, this one book you wrote says things that are completely the opposite of what we're telling people to do.
We don't want you to stop tithing. We want you to give to the church. Give to the church. Let us.
But when you watch Da Vinci Code, right? When you watch Da Vinci Code, you think like, oh my God, look, the Catholic Church. No, like Jesus. They're too busy covering up sex scandals than they are to go off and suppressing truth.
And killing young indigenous people.
That's right.
They really tried hard to.
In their defense, they weren't doing it on purpose. They were doing it through gross neglect and apparently outright.
That's what they say.
That's the defense they're saying. Well, we didn't intend to. Okay, well.
Yeah,
it's like when the cops choke somebody out to death. Like, we didn't intend to kill him.
But
your actions directly led to it.
Yeah, and who knows? But I digress. That's not voodoo. Let's talk about voodoo.
What is voodoo, Phil? So if I had to say, tell me what voodoo is, what would you say?
Voodoo is a religion, an actual religion that originated in Africa, Nigeria, or I can't remember exactly. I think it was Nigeria.
I hear West Africa is what
West Africa, but it was in that, that area. And they had a shit ton of gods. So they called the gods Iwa.
Or Loa, Lawa, WLWA, or Loa. And I think the term of gods is a bit misnomer because they don't actually.
I say gods, but I mean it'd be more like like spirits.
Correct, because voodoo is a monotheistic religion.
Yeah. Okay? So they
one god. Bondi apparently means like good guy or good god or something.
Right. Sorry, you're not wrong. Yeah, but there's a bunch of these little. Everything has like its own little spirit.
Correct, the spirits, and they talk about energies and spirits and whatnot, right? So it's now the cool part about this is people say, like you said, they make the same thing. Oh, well, there's a bunch of gods. Well, no, they're not a bunch of gods.
You're right. I would just fell into the,
and then there's all the little spirits underneath.
Right.
Because that is a polytheism if there's multiple gods. So, for example, the Greek pantheon was. I did school.
What? I didn't. School. I did school. I love how you said that.
I did school.
Yeah, so keep going. It's polytheism.
Polytheism is where you have multiple gods, right? So this is where you have like the Greek pantheons, right? Where every god, there might be a guy in charge, but the idea being is there are multiple gods, and in some cases, like in the case of the Greek religion, you've got your Trinity, right? Your Poseidon, Hades, Zeus, right? Sky, earth, water.
They all seem to follow a fairly similar trend.
And then underground, like the different layers.
Right.
So
yeah.
And voodoo is not that though. Voodoo is more akin to what you see in the Catholic Church, where you've got the big cheese, and then you've got all his little minions.
The big kahuna.
The big kahuna. Yes.
Right. Okay.
Culturally appropriate that term, Phil. What are you, a Ninja Turtle?
What? If I was, I'd be the retarded one in the back. Oh, were we allowed to say retarded anymore?
Hey, Phil, you can say whatever you want.
Our viewership is very.
That's right. If one of the 21 people that will listen to our viewership are offended by that, please leave another comment, and Phil will apologize in the next episode.
Yes, I will, because I'm not well. So no, you're not wrong. I did write some notes, but what we know as voodoo, like in the movies and things, is more of a Haitian.
Correct. So this is where you have the two different things, right? So you've got the original African voodoo. So they say there are two main branches of voodoo. Technically, there's like 2.5. From what my research was, there's African voodoo, which is your traditional one, and it's like pronounced voodoo.
Voodoo.
Yeah, I know exactly. As opposed to voodoo, which I guess are like we like to roll our O's. There's the Haitian voodoo,
right?
And then there's Louisiana voodoo, which is a subset of Haitian voodoo, which is more the popularized Hollywood one.
That's the Creole. Is that what you mean? Like that's
Yeah.
the
Because you've got the creolization, the Haitian and the Louisiana voodoo. Louisiana voodoo is very much so is Haitian voodoo, but Louisiana voodoo is even more so a creolized Creole religion.
like the French and the because that's what Creole is, right? Is
Creole is when you have essentially when it's a language concept when you have a English speaking father and a French speaking mother, and they
what
figure out this
comes out.
language. Yeah. And it turns out they create a language between them because to try and communicate, they sort of start using individual words from each.
Right.
And this is what happened with voodoo is the Christianization of like the Haitians couldn't do their religion. Like they couldn't practice it, right?
So why is that? So
owner.
let's go back.
Yeah,
so let's go back to colonialism.
Bill's favorite topic.
Yeah, but it's exactly what happened, right? So you had the colonialization of Haiti and any of the other South America.
The slave trade, right? The slave trade.
Slave trade, yeah. So that's where the religion was brought to Haiti through African slaves, right? Yep. And then they were kind of browbeat into Catholicism.
Forcibly converted, Phil. They were
forcibly. I love that word. They were forcibly converted, and then their religion was basically outlawed. Well, that also happens in a lot of other religions and cultures, right?
So and we know how well that works. The religion disappears, right?
Generally speaking, yes, or at least it's broken into pieces that are like, you know, the Aztecs, the Mayans, the blah blah blah, like you name it. But what happened was they hung on.
Yep.
Right. And they practiced in secret. They did a lot of their traditional drumming and things like that in secret, which I didn't know. So this has a lot of drumming.
Yeah, a lot of drumming. If you're like
dancing,
a drummer fan. Yep.
Like, I mean, they have their traditional dances and drumming and not unlike other tribal cultures, right?
Yep.
But then there's also a hint of Catholicism in there.
Because they needed to hide what they were doing. So to practice it in secret, one of the best ways of practicing in secret is out in the open.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's the best way. So if you go off and you say, hey, you know what, Bondi? That's God.
Right.
But I'm going to treat him exactly like he's Bondi.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to treat the God. Same thing with all of a sudden, a lot of the Loa became Catholic saints or angels.
Right. They use those as a
like stand-ins.
That's a real smart way of like going, okay, well, we're not allowed to do this because, you know, we'll get killed or tortured or whatever the case may be.
Well, and there was a reason for this, by the way, Phil, because it turns out a lot of the voodoo, like the Haitian voodoo stuff, a lot of the slave revolts, the quasi-successful ones that happened, had their origins in Haitian voodoo.
Well, yeah, and eventually though they like this is not like old as we think. Like they were only allowed to practice voodoo as a religion like 20 years ago. Like I mean in the 90s I think it became okay or I may be wrong.
Like not hidden, right? So if you go back into for example back into the days of the Marie Laveau down in New Orleans.
Marie Laveau. There's a song about Marie Laveau.
Is there?
Yeah, by Bobby Bear. So Bobby Bear sings about Marie Laveau.
Do you know any of the words?
Not really, no. But I know the yeah, sort of. Nobody wants to hear that, Corey.
No, they don't. No,
we're going to be down to like 7 viewers after.
That's right.
God damn it. But yeah, no, but it's a relatively new concept. It's like when people go over, you know, back to like even in our culture in Canada, residential schools closed officially in 1997. You go, what? 97? Because we always talk about it like it's such a, but they weren't allowed to practice this religion as an open religion until like around that time. Like it's kind of crazy.
Well, so this is the thing, right? One of the problems is when you have a dominant religion, which I believe
Catholicism.
So I want to say in the New World it was more Protestantism because I remember there was a bit of a schism between, but let's say Christianity. Christianity was the dominant religion.
Well, in Haiti, it was the Roman Catholic Church.
Yes.
Yeah. That was, but I mean,
and I'm thinking in North America too, you had the Christianity
of some
was sort of the dominant. And
if
you weren't doing something that looked like Christianity, because Christianity has always been very accepting-ish of cults and variants that are Christian, right? Like it's like, hey, you know what? At least they're Christians, right?
At least they're kind of
handling
on our
snakes, but at least
side.
that's right. They're handling snakes and making multiple wives.
Yeah,
But at least they're Christians, right? Okay, we're good.
Except for when the Protestants and like you end up with this weird sort of like deviation, right?
Yes.
I want a divorce.
I want a divorce. Yeah, is that what
you
when
can't
Martin
do
Luther
that?
Went off and nailed it up to the church, saying that was a divorce. His divorce papers he was nailing up.
No, I thought wasn't that Henry VI? I don't know. One of the kings wanted a divorce,
I want to say Henry VIII. I want to say Henry VIII, but I'm not sure if it's Henry VIII.
It's one of the Henrys, and he was like, "Dude, to the Pope."
But the Protestant Reformation happened technically a bit before that because Martin Luther went off and did his little.
So he started.
He started because of the indulgence. But anyway, we're not talking about Christianity. We're talking about voodoo. So
we are. But it all tends to wrap its little ugly hands around each other. So okay, so back. Let's digress here.
Okay, what are the Loa, Phil? What we know, Bondi. The Bondi is God. So if you say Bondi is God.
Well, they're the spirits of all sorts. There's like 1,000 of them. So I mean, could be the rain. It could be the spirits of like the sun or the crops or people, right? I mean, am I far off? I believe that's
no. You got it.
Like, and that's kind of like their solstices, and they had different Loa for different things, right? Obviously, for day-to-day life stuff.
So that is actually where you nail it on the head. So the one of the definitions of a Loa is they were essentially spirits created by Bondi to assist mortals in their daily affairs.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
living in daily affairs, which is exactly what you were saying, right? The whole idea, this was not an abstract concept of the idea is the Loa were there to assist the living in their daily affairs. So, you needed somebody. Think of the stuff you do in life, and there's probably a Loa for it.
Like if you're not regular,
podcasting.
There's a Loa. Do you see him over my shoulder?
That's
still there.
Right.
Is he still there?
Right. Carson fades in from the background.
It's like, oh my god, there's a Loa behind me. But unlike there's thousands though. Like I don't know how you would keep track. This is
there's a bunch, but I think there's almost like a long. So the funny thing is, remember I talked about the Haitian Revolution, the slave revolts that happened?
Yes.
Some of those fellows essentially became Loa, under saints. The tradition.
Similar idea.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So you can see where a lot of the stuff that was done under Voodoo does map over kinda to Christianity because you have similar concepts of hey, you're taking a what is it? Is it Saint Michael? That's the protector of travelers.
Saint of travel.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So if you're taking a trip, you're going to say, "Hey, Saint Michael, can you keep an eye out for me? I'd like not to die."
Yeah. It's interesting because why they like any captor will want to control its captives by removing their culture. That is the number one way to control a people, right? Is to
break them,
to take away the things that make them who they are, and to usurp them into regular, to your way of doing things. But it was interesting how the Haitians were like these basically these slaves said, "Yeah, fuck you," and they figured it out.
They figured it out kind of organically. So that was like this wasn't like a bishop conclave that was called and they all sat down and said, "Okay, we're going to write down the rules. We're going to do this." Like they carried over a bunch of the oral tradition because it is an oral tradition. There isn't anything written down. You're not going to.
Most tribal sects are like that. That's very common, and that's why it's easier to, in a way, get rid of. Is that if you take away that generational, they eventually die out, and then it's
you can break it if you can break the chain. Now, mind you, as we've seen before, turns out books are very flammable. So unless you're carving them into stone tablets,
fair enough. But they're easy to hide. You can hide.
You can hide them, right? You can go off and hide
Jimmy.
them. Get Grandpa under the couch. We're going to need him to provide our traditions.
Well, this is it, and then you take away language, which is another thing. They weren't allowed to
which is
practice their language.
and this is the funny enough when you talk about the Krill thing, our good buddies the French, right? So the good news is this was predominantly a French thing versus an English thing. So the Brits, for their part, were kind of not really involved in the whole Haitian voodoo because they weren't really involved.
Oh no,
in the Haitian,
colonialism isn't just British. I mean,
well, yeah, but that's what it's
Spanish, but no. Well, look at South America.
All the world powers.
Yeah,
all the world powers.
Any basic power of that time, and it still happens today. In some ways, it's just more. I don't know. We're liberating.
We're enlightening and liberating. We're bringing the light of knowledge to them, and it's also it's a torch. Yeah. And guess what? We're going to use that torch to burn. We're going to burn the other stuff. But now we're pontificating about colonialism.
But it is exactly how. I mean, if there wasn't colonialism, this religion would never have made it to America.
Correct, and it wouldn't be in the form it is now.
Correct. So you have to kind of go, okay, well, everything evolves, right? Like it seems that and things, any religion that you have, including this, evolves when there's a need to evolve. Like, okay, well, we have to become more. I think the God will be all right if we do this.
Let's get our pen. Let's take the book and say, when they say, like, because you read Old Testament stuff,
very dark.
There was not a lot of love and kindness in that. I mean,
God's not your friend.
Bondi is looking at you going, God damn, I'm getting let me get my bucket.
Get me my bucket. Why a bucket? I don't know. Anyway.
Dump water. I don't know.
But the revolutions were another thing, like revolts. Yes. I mean, that was a big thing that
this played a role because religion is very much a method of societal control, but it's also societal organization, right?
Bonding. Yeah.
You have people over common beliefs where all of a sudden, and if they're doing these rituals together. So, but we're going a bit of far afield. Do you know some interesting Loa?
I don't. I really know. Well, I read about them, but I don't remember. I mean, there were.
You gotta at least tell me you got my man Baron Samedi.
No, what? Baron Samedi?
Samedi, yeah, Baron Samedi.
No.
Skeletal figure, top hat, tails.
Oh, yes.
Top hat, tails. Guy in charge at the graveyards. You want to get to the afterlife, you got to go through him. He's got to
sounds
agree.
familiar.
If he doesn't, you're screwed.
You need to put pennies on your eyes. Similar guy. Works with him. The gatekeeper.
Apparently he's connected to powerful acts of magic. So this is often when people think of voodoo, they think of this fellow. Like they think of, top hat, tails, well-dressed skeletal figure. He's the guy that if he can heal any mortal wound. But
why would he though? He's the gatekeeper.
But you can pay a price because again, like you said, he's the gatekeeper, right? He's susceptible to bribes.
Of course he is.
The bribe big enough, he's like, no problem, I'll get you next time.
What can the living do to bribe the dead or the Loa?
Yeah, well, but okay, so funny you mentioned that. So Baron, he's the one I like the most, but there's like the other top of leg, right? There's Damballa, the serpent one, but the cool part is what you said about bribing the Loa. How do they bribe the Loa, Phil?
With gifts from the living.
Also known as
bribes.
I was going to say sacrifices, but yes.
So they do that. Yeah. So there is, which I thought was like, I mean, so many cultures have animal sacrifices, but
it's interesting in that one of the things I had read about the voodoo sacrifice is it's a little different than the traditional sacrifice, as opposed to often sacrifice is exactly that. You are sacrificing something of yours that has value. Right. Whereas the way I read how it's cast in voodoo is it's less about sacrificing something of yours and more about bribing the Loa. You're offering them meat. You're sacrificing. They like pig. Hey, he's a big pig eat. He likes pork.
And they would do an offering as such, right?
An offering versus so it's funny how, and this is where the sacrifice thing I think gets all mixed up, because they talk about sacrifice as in, you are sacrificing something of yours. No, you are offering to the gods or to the Loa as here's your lunch. Can you help a brother out?
And I mean, you see this in how they kill animals and things like that. That's in so many cultures, right? And the process of, like, even when you look at like kosher food, right? Or
halal, or
right, yeah. So there tends to be like a religious component to how food is prepared, how food is bled, and that's no different. I read about about sacrifices, and they, it was pretty cool. I mean, you're going to eat the animal, so why not
well,
give it
you often
quick...
you often have a feast, right? So a lot of these ceremonies involve feasting on the, like, you offer the animal up. It's like, hey, they're gonna take what they want, and guess what? We're gonna eat what's left, because why not?
I don't think they actually take much.
I don't think they take much either, because I think it's.
And if you sat around waiting, that could be a while.
Did you see them dumping the rum out? Like, they'll do the same
I
thing with the
know.
rum. Like the one
Good
the one
rum,
Loa,
Corey.
what is it? Ogun.
Ogun. Yeah.
Practitioners of Haitian voodoo call upon Ogun for matters related to war and conflict and make offerings of male animals. Roosters and dogs in particular seem to be his favorite. So I don't think you're eating a dog.
Some cultures, when in Rome.
When in Rome, Korea. Apparently he has a fondness for pretty women and good rum. Now, when I read that, I'm like, does that mean you're offering up pretty ladies? Because that's where I think stuff starts to get a little dark, and particularly Hollywood starts to twist things. Like, okay, look,
right.
look, this Loa likes ladies, so therefore they want to offer up ladies.
Right.
Okay, wait a second. I don't think they're actually sacrificing them.
I didn't read anywhere where there were human sacrifices. Not like the Mayans,
Nothing
like a weekend of 80,000, like, deaths. The 80,000 deaths,
which is just on the industrial scale to do that.
As it right? Can you imagine how tired that priest was?
Like, gotta swap me out my knife. My heart cutting hand is getting it's tired.
And these knives were not sharp. This was not an industrialized razor sharp procedure. These poor people. Yeah, no, 80,000.
Obsidian. Were the Aztec knives obsidian?
I don't know. They may have had, no, they would have had a copper, or at very least gold, or some sort of metal that would be, I believe that they would have had a metal of some type. I mean, they smelted gold, so why not smelt things like copper, or turn it into bronze, or
why? So bronze does. So the problem with bronze is it's an alloy of copper and tin, right?
That's right.
So
it's a little stronger than copper.
Yeah, well, a little stronger. So complete aside here, turns out the whole iron completely screwed the bronze. No, turns out iron and bronze were comparable for durability, sharpness, etc., etc. The difference is you got to make bronze. Iron, you just got to smelt iron. Like, if you can smelt iron, like, you're done. You're done. You're good to go. Whereas you had to actually take tin and copper to make bronze, and then you had to make the thing you want. Whereas iron, if you had iron accessible, boom, boom.
Yeah. Well, and obviously, I wasn't there, but they would have had the capability of at least, smelting something, because they did smelt gold, so they knew that there were ore, and
made jewelry, right?
They made jewelry with they made cities of gold, for God's sake. So
El Dorado.
El Dorado.
It'd be a topic sometime we should do. El Dorado.
Yeah, I don't know much about the Mayans, so that'd be cool to do. And, but yeah, so I didn't read anything about human sacrifice, but they certainly killed a lot of animals in the name of, like you say, the god.
Now,
or the
with that sacrifice, the offering thing, what is one of the primary things that you often hear associated with voodoo, as far as you make this offering and then what happens? The spirit comes down and grants all your wishes, or does this,
the spirit gives shit to somebody? It's a bad day for Jimmy, who sold you some shitty merchandise. But yeah, like that's what I assume. Like, I mean, they still have that, but they wish harm on.
That's an element of it. It's not the primary. It's not the primary thing, but and the other cool part is the riding, right? The Loa, the whole idea that a lot of voodoo has the idea of possession. but in the good way versus the bad Catholic. Nobody in the Catholic system says being possessed is good by a complete stranger.
Well, that's part of the ceremony, is that the Loa, kind of come and inhabit you, and you dance, and so there's a lot of strange.
Apparently the translation is riding, not possessing. So it's more like how
I love a good riding. I mean, don't we all?
We all, but it's less like a possession in the fact you're not taking over the person. It's more that you're like riding a horse. So they still have their own consciousness in that, but they are under the control of something else. Which, again, I don't know if that's some kind of metaphor or whatever for back to tribal structures or slavery or something. But I always thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But I mean, if you look at the root, so there wasn't a lot on the root. Well, I guess there was. I tended to read more about the Haitian, Creole religion. I didn't look so much at the West African.
I didn't touch too deep on it. They're very, very similar. Personally, I think when we think of voodoo, we're thinking Haitian / Louisiana voodoo. Like, honestly, that's what we're all thinking.
Yeah, I mean that is what we're. But like Hollywood totally took this and made it into something. Like, I remember Child's Play as a kid, and I was freaked. I hated dolls to begin with, and then you watch this goddamn thing, and you're like, whoa. Like, we were young. Like, that was in the 80s. So what when Child's Play came up, we would have been like 10 or 11 probably. And remember, like, it was the voodoo. He put his spirit.
Scared me, so I didn't watch it when I was that age. I watched it much later in life.
Oh, did you? I watched it, and I was like, what have I done? What have I done? But that was voodoo, right?
That's an example. That's
he was dying, and he put his
Hollywooded version of hey, I'm going to put my spirit into something.
Yeah.
I have to go and see a man about a horse. How about we come back after the break?
All right, let's do it. Hey, you're back.
Hey, I survived. Yay.
Oh, good. So where were we? Zombies.
We were talking about Chucky.
Well, we did talk about
place. But it actually nicely dovetails into the zombie thing, right? So
right. Well, zombies are very Haitian.
This is traditional. I mean, and now very exploited. There's the movie White Zombie, where, not surprisingly,
and the band alike.
Yes, correct. And Rob Zombie, who I don't think is Haitian.
Also, I don't think his last name is really Zombie, but I could be wrong.
I don't know. Maybe he legally changed it. Yeah. So it was fascinating when you're talking about the Chucky thing, where he put his spirit into the doll, right? The whole spirit transfer. A zombie under traditional voodoo is not the rotting corpse from the day, George Romero's Night of the Living Dead.
No, it's not. It was like a slave.
It's a slave, and it's essentially a body. It's a body without. Yeah. So this thing, there's an allegory here, but it was a body without a spirit. So the idea being that you have no soul. There has been shenanigans where they've removed the soul aspect, so you have a compliant physical form that is still human. Like, it's still
biologically human. It's heart beating.
It's not a dead thing. It's not dead in the sense of zombie dead.
Yeah, it's just like, like when you say to your kids or something, stop being a zombie, let's go. Put your shoes on. God.
Me before my coffee in the morning.
Right.
A lot of people. Soul until I get the caffeine.
Yeah. That's your Loa, is your caffeine. It comes and helps you with your day.
Or stills my spirit. I make my offering of I got nothing.
Coffee grounds.
That's right. Turns out they like it. Or it's the most addictive substance. I was watching what was it recent? I was watching like an ad where it's like, if the real coffee ads where it talks about, shows them at the cottage, and he's getting up in the morning, he's smelling his coffee, and this old guy comes in and says, "Are you ready for your cup of murky brown water that has one of the most addictive substances known to mankind in it?"
So true.
It's basically a completely unsexy coffee commercial.
Well, apparently So I know we're off a little bit here on a tangent, but
not too far off,
not
because we're
too
talking
far.
coffee and slaves.
This is true. I mean, you're not wrong. But yeah, there was this guy I watched. He was actually was on a Joe Rogan podcast. He's a, what do you call that when they a microbiologist? Like he examines like chemicals on like a micro.
Okay.
Anyway, he was looking at coffee, and he said, well, to do it, he said, I'm going to stop drinking coffee for 2 months, 60 days. And he was like, he goes, I'm not a big coffee drinker. So I thought this would be super easy. And he goes, I'd have a cup a day, maybe two at the most. And that's like me. I don't drink a lot of coffee. Like I drink my morning coffee, and that's pretty much it for the day. And he said he started to feel horrible, like instantly horrible after a few days. Like he said, he goes, I was going through withdrawals like you wouldn't believe. Like it was insane. And those withdrawals didn't change. Like when you quit smoking, eventually those withdrawal, like they change, they subside, right? They didn't subside for him. He just continued to have horrible withdrawals. And it is a drug. Like it is absolutely a caffeineism. And it's in a lot of things. It's not just coffee.
Of course.
And
that and sugar and everything, but at least with caffeine, that they're sort of in that wine beer state where it's like, or actually more the wine state where it's like, we think it's healthy for you. Okay.
It was given to workers. This was the whole idea of coffee. It was given to people to actually produce more productive workers. That was the whole idea. It was
my white collar job, buddy. I tell you, if it wasn't for coffee, some of the things you're like,
yeah, man. Well, I mean, I know that like even my business partner who doesn't have coffee, we're like, go home. You need to, like, you're not a human being until you have. My wife too. She needs her first coffee.
I will occasionally, I haven't done it recently, but I usually do like a 2-week, I'll just stop drinking coffee just to.
And how do you feel?
Like ass.
Yeah. See,
but I get over it. Like the worst parts get over. So I think the problem you run into is when people get off of caffeine, get off of coffee, and they go past the withdrawal, they start feeling essentially what is normal. There's a reason why we drink caffeine, folks. It makes us feel better than normal.
Or drink. It's what some people drink.
Just feel better than normal. And what you're feeling when you've actually cleared out all the physical addiction is normal. And
normal's not great.
But on the subject of zombies, and drugs, what was that Serpent in the Rainbow, or what was that? Remember that movie where it was like not
You're
Bill
quizzing me. I don't know.
What was it? Was the movie about essentially Haitian voodoo zombie creation.
Oh.
And it was like I think it's like the Serpent in the Rainbow, I think is what it was called.
Oh.
But it's based on the documented of this anthropologist who went and tried to explore the whole Haitian voodoo thing, I guess.
Yeah. So there's been a bunch. So I read about a bunch of those sort of like you can create a zombie in a human being. The CIA did it.
That's right. Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Yeah, MK Ultra. But you can lobotomize a person and they stay living, and they, but to have them to be controlled, that was something different, right? So, but you can indoctrinate them into, like, they had this one case I read about this girl. They had this priest, this voodoo priest, had her believing she was a zombie from like 100 years ago. I can't remember her name.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so he abducted her, I guess, or I don't know how exactly it went, but she was so indoctrinated into the religion that she fucking bought it, like hand, foot, and mouth, and just said, okay.
Hook, line, and sinker.
And it wasn't until the individual that the priest had said, this woman was medically, the woman that she was supposed to be had broken her femur. There was document of this woman. So then the medical doctors, because they had abducted, like, she was abducted, right? But she believed that she was a zombie slave.
Okay.
And the only proof that actually helped to change her mind was that she didn't have a broken femur, right? That under X-ray, that her
Okay.
femur wasn't, horribly, like, this woman had from 100 years ago was like absolutely fucked her leg up. So, but she believed it. It's the power of the mind, right? It's the power of, like, when you see,
and this is where we're dealing with the pharmacological element. So one of the things they had, and I believe it's been debunked, at least some of my notes suggest,
yeah,
they talk about the zombie powder that you're supposed to give, to make somebody a zombie. So it's
right.
and they talk about it's like the puffer
Is
fist
it a
tetrotoxin.
placebo though? Like, is that the?
It's apparently got the tetrotoxin stuff, which is the nerve toxin that, if your fish isn't cut right, you wind up, you end up dropping
Dead.
into like a kinda, yeah.
I would never eat that. Fuck that.
You at the very least wind up in a state that mirrors death, at least for a point where you're respirating. Now, remember, a lot of the stuff, the documented cases of voodoo zombies are, like 100 years ago.
Yeah,
Right. Medical science has advanced a fair bit where we can say, we don't have to have a bell so you can ring it, or do a wake. So to make sure you're dead, you're not just stone cold drunk. And they would, this idea of the zombie powder would go off, you'd dose somebody with it, and they would essentially die. They would go and fall into a state that is, shallow respiration, and the medical doctor would say, yeah, he's dead, bury him. And then the guy who dosed the guy would go over and dig him up within 8 hours, because that's how much air
you got about 8 hours.
Got about 8 hours to do it. So, and they didn't embalm people, right? I mean, you go off, you're like, he's dead, put him in a box, put him in the ground, right?
Done. Yeah, back then, like, but not now.
Yeah,
that whole embalming thing.
If you're not dead, you are dead now.
You're gonna want to be when they start draining your fluids
and start running that embalming fluids, the formaldehyde through your system. You're like,
you ain't gonna live long. That's gonna be
right. You're not gonna be happy anyway.
That's right.
Did you hear about the case of Clavius Narci? This is the documented case of.
I think it was in my notes somewhere. But do tell. You remember so much more than I do. This was a
Haitian man who was claimed to have been turned into a zombie by a Haitian voodoo and forced to work as a slave.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, so he was basically, the Hattian Narci's account was that he had been administered a combination of psychoactive substances, often paralyzing pufferfish and tetrotoxin, and a strong deliriant, datura, which rendered him helpless and seemingly dead.
Yeah, but I mean, we, after doing like MK Ultra and things like that, I mean, we know that there are brain altering drugs that can virtually make you do whatever the fuck somebody else wants, and these are all chemicals found in nature.
This fellow was a zombie apparently for a bit. So he died in his apparent death and subsequent burial was on May 2nd, 1962.
Okay, I did read about him.
And then he shows up. Where is it? He died. Okay, so May 2nd, and then when does he show up for his? Yeah, he returned after 16 years to his family.
Oh, okay.
So apparently he had been working on a plane. He was recovered from his grave by the Bokor and forced him alongside others to work on a sugar plantation until the master's death.
Oh.
Yeah,
that sounds terrible.
Yeah, apparently he was constantly being dosed with this zombie powder.
Yeah, I mean, I think like all religions, it doesn't matter what they are. There's no good religion, in my opinion. I mean, you have like this, there's always a portion of control, right?
There's no true good. Like I would say good religion is a bit of a judgmental term. I would agree that every religion has its
it wants to control its followers
because they've got faith and beliefs, and the whole thing, the reason why we're working together is we all agree on the same thing. Well, you don't agree what I agree, we got a problem.
Then you're wrong, obviously.
Well, one of us is wrong. We'll let God figure it out, or Bondi.
But this is it. But who talks to Bondi? The priest. Now you got to trust that the priest is doing the right thing, which
that they're not acting in their own self-interest, that they're
Weird
like,
that a human would act in his own self-interest.
the whole idea of people doing stuff and saying, well, my deity commanded this, and this isn't
Yeah.
me. This isn't me, folks. This is it's
Mm-hmm.
the act. It's actually the absolute going off and abdication responsibility and say, hey, so in the case of this, like in Voodoo, the whole
Mm-hmm.
idea of the Loa riding possession, you could probably get away with a bunch of stuff saying, well, for example, like, oh, it wasn't me, I was ridden at the time, so I'm
Right.
not
Right.
responsible for my acts. Or I spoke with Baron Samedi, and he said this is what you need to do.
Right. I talked to him.
I talked to him the other day. He sent me a
Yeah.
message, texted me.
Yeah, like all other crazy ass cult religion shit. Yeah. But I mean, that's the thing, is that, like, I'm sure 99% of voodoo religion followers are, there because they, just like Catholicism. Do I believe every Catholic is bad? No, of course not.
Yep.
But I mean, that 1% that controls the direction of said church,
or has the ability to control
the authority,
right?
Yep. They're the people that are tend to be the,
yep.
The puppet masters, so to speak. And
as you pointed out about pop culture destroying things like voodoo, right? So for example, voodoo dolls and the gris. So the voodoo dolls, if you look at them now, they're not really as big of a thing as they are, but a lot of the idea of putting needles on is probably more akin to acupuncture as opposed to inflicting harm on the person.
Right. But Hollywood turns it into, I'm going to break your, like they broke the dude's legs and everything. I can't remember what movie it was, but I mean, there's so many movies, right, where it's like, okay, and as a kid you go, oh, I mean, do I believe in it? No. But do I have to? No.
But just in case, I'm going to clean up all my hair and fingernails and not.
But as a person who, say I was practicing as a voodoo, patron, or however they describe themselves when they practice voodoo,
I'm sure
I'd be like, all they think it is zombies and voodoo dolls and possession, and it's not.
But some people,
there's more to it, right?
Some people capitalize on it. So the interesting parts, like you look at the gris, right? So this is the tourist trappy thing. Like I said, Marie Laveau, the voodoo priestess of New Orleans, she did this all the time, where she would do up either the wardings, like here's you give me money.
Yes.
I will do up this little magic sack that you keep with you. And apparently, get this, cops in New Orleans would carry around one of these.
Can't hurt.
Well, it's not going to hurt me, right? Hopefully not.
Maybe it'll help. Maybe I won't get shot or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, like with you look at like how crucial are zombies in the world of movies and television. That's huge business.
Because we don't have, what we need, and we need a movie about zombies. Oh wait, no, we're good. I hope we can move on to something else. I'm getting a little sick. I've been sick of zombies for the last 5 years.
Like between Resident Evil and The Walking Dead, and I mean
any number of other movies.
Yeah, like there's a ton of zombie movies out there. It's a little over. Well, okay, The Last of Us was really good.
But that was a fungus zombie movie. I mean,
so you read about that stuff.
Yeah, well, okay, yeah, that maybe that would be a future podcast.
So zombie fungus, wow.
Yeah, just the whole idea of, the zombie fungus are the parasites that
it's a fungus.
Ants. Yeah, no, but there's a wasp that does a similar thing where it'll inject a parasite into an ant, get it to basically takes over.
Yeah, and this fungus though, it infects the brain of ants, and it's a real thing. I read about it after watching it. I was like, what the fuck? And it's a mycelia of some fucking. I was like, I don't really want to read about this because it's pretty crazy and
very crazy.
But it was a great show. Like I'm a big fan of Pedro. Game. Did you? So I'd never played the video game, so I had no idea.
The first one, not the second one. I haven't played the second one yet.
Oh, okay. But I like Pedro Pascal because I'm a Mandalorian fan, and do you watch The Mandalorian?
I've watched up to season 2. I haven't watched season 3 yet. I should really sit down and watch it.
Oh, it's so good.
I know
it's done now, so you can watch it.
They're trying to do a handoff to Starbuck. I know that.
Oh, what's Starbuck?
Kate Sackhoff. She was Starbuck in the
that they're so she's the Mandalorian queen.
Yeah, and I believe they're trying to put Pedro in with the Imperial Republic Rangers or whatever the hell it's called. I kind of like the lone gunman, like the whole wandering.
I prefer he stays, true to that character. By himself, but they're all intermingled. Like if you watch, what's the other guy? Oh my God, Boba Fett. So you watch Boba Fett.
Tamura, something.
Yeah, like I can't remember. Like Mandalorian's in everything. He's got his hands in everything. He's everywhere. He's all places.
Well, apparently Pedro was getting jerked around by Disney for the Mandalorian, and right up until he did The Last of Us, and then it's like The Last of HBO is paying him all this money, and he's like, Disney, guess what? If you want me, this is what I'm worth.
Yeah. Yeah, he's excellent. If he left, I mean, that would be crippling for the
brand. It would recover, but it wouldn't be the same. It's like Henry Cavill leaving The Witcher. It's not going to be the same.
Because he's not going to be in a new Superman movie, right?
No, he's not. But he's going to be they're doing like a Warhammer 40K something on Amazon. I can't remember.
Jesus Christ.
He's doing fine.
We're in an era of amazing television.
Yeah, but I don't watch television, so this is the problem I suffer from.
I try. I don't have a lot of time, but I try. I put in a lot of effort to try.
But anyway, we're digress.
Yeah, let's go back. Let's. Okay. What else would you like to talk about, Corey? When it comes
Voodoo versus voodoo. So you use this term often at the start, and they are not the same thing. Although the difference is very subtle.
Okay.
Voodoo is voodoo without the religion.
Oh,
it's basically Southern folk magic is how I've heard it. So essentially, when you see about the magical arcane practices of voodoo, if you stripped out the religious element,
that's what it is.
Apparently that becomes voodoo.
Yeah, I did read about that where, I mean, it's sort of a bastardized version of of voodoo, right?
Well, it's stripped down, right? Like you've gotten out the worshipy aspect of it, and it becomes down to the magic aspect of it, which is
like witchcraft almost.
Like that would be probably accurate, as opposed to, I want to say Wicca is more like voodoo, but you're worshiping other things. I haven't really looked into Wicca at all.
Me either. I figure my brain doesn't have a lot more room left. So,
well, after 5 seasons of a podcast, I'm surprised it's got any room left at all.
Everything starts to blur into one conspiracy.
That's right. The Wagner Group is the Illuminati.
Is the Illuminati, which
and
works
they were at
for
Area
MK
51.
Ultra.
Yeah, that's exactly. That's right. Draw your crazy board up.
It's so crazy. There you go. Well, would you like to recap our zombie voodoo massacre?
Sure. Okay, so voodoo is not what pop culture makes it out to be. It is a monotheistic religion that was transplanted from Africa through through Haiti via the slave trade, found its way into the southern United States, particularly Louisiana, and it's involves a monotheistic deity who has a bunch of little gophers underneath called Loa that will help us do our things if we make proper offerings.
I like that, gophers. Little doodads and gophers.
There's always a hierarchy. Always a hierarchy, my friend.
I like when I learn something, and I learned something this time about, like, you're misguided sometimes.
Yes.
I really didn't think it was even a religion. I just thought it was like, kind of a sect cult, and really it's a religion.
Yeah,
it's legit.
Same here. I was kind of operating under the principle that, hey, again, the Hollywood, and you can't escape pop culture.
For sure, we can't escape who we are. So what do you want to do next week? What are we thinking?
Okay, well, since we're talking about deviance, how about we touch on Gnosticism?
I have no idea what that is. Gnosticism?
Gnosticism.
Yeah,
there's a couple interesting things on it, and I mean, again, if we're talking about how things can get twisted, particularly with Christianity, this would be a prime example of how somebody could take Christian teachings and say, you know what?
We're
going to go off, and it comes back to the concepts of societal control, somebody in charge picking the direction of things. Yeah.
You know all the things that make my heart glow. Text that to me, because I won't remember that name. All right.
I'll flip it to you, so you've got at least a starting point.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for watching the OC. I'm Phil. This is Corey, and until next week when we talk about gotchiism or something.
That's a Pokemon. Now it's like a Pokemon thing.
Have a good week and be good to each other. Jerry Springer died, and all of you bow your heads. And,
Yes. Take care, folks.
Good night.